My last video, we covered which protagonist would win in an all-out brawl, and now let's talk about which army would win in an all-out confrontation. Quick editor's note, the last video got copyright claimed because I used it and then a kick in the head, so I'm not going to use any more Fallout music. It's a shame, but that's how it goes. So back to the video. Anybody wants to accuse me of being a New Vegas glazer? Yeah, I am. Cry about it. Go on. Cry about it. Do it. I cry all the time. I need to talk about some rules here. Are we including the DLC? Are we going the canon route? Because I know a lot of people like to throw out that the Lone Wanderer has a spaceship with a big death ray on it, but the ship canonically doesn't work post DLC, so it's kind of a really big paperweight. Furthermore, if you want to include the DLCs, then the Lone Wanderer can't have Liberty Prime in their army because... So, let's go peak maximum efficiency for the fun of it, because otherwise this will be a wipe from jump. So there's no real discussion on the Lone Wanderer's army, it's the Lion Brotherhood chap. The Reclaimers is a little weird because very rarely do we see anybody actually actively fight alongside the Reclaimer, or the Reclaimers aside from the Enclave bots. So for that reason, I'm going to say a handful of Protectrons, Assaultrons, Mr. Gutsies, and some Sentry bots, as well as the 76ers themselves. 24 in total, because I believe that's the server cap. Hang on, let me check. Yep, that's the server cap. Another question is, are we going to let them have the mutations? Because they kind of canonically do. Some of them don't, but a lot of them do, so let's give it to them. The Sole Survivor? I think the Institute just wouldn't fight. They only ever play their hand for advantageous things to further their own goals.
Considering, given all parties present?
Ah, yes, that's true.
And they're gone in canon anyway. So I think it's safe to say a fully realized Minutemen militia and a Brotherhood co-op party would be the Sole Survivor's army. However, I don't think you can canonically unite both of them. It's a pretty well-known fact that the Minutemen are fairly neutral as a faction unless someone else attacks them. So I guess technically if you're the leader of the Minutemen but you're also in the Brotherhood, I guess the Minutemen would be willing to help, though not a large amount of them because they'd rather protect Boston. There's also another faction, but I can't remember what they're called. Fail Losers or something like that. Courier's fully realized army is... oh boy, this is gonna be a nightmare. Mr. House alliance with the NCR. It's a bit of cut content, I believe, and it's never in the game. So a full army of Securitrons and a full NCR force, along with everything the Courier unites, is a wipe. However, like I said, it's non-canon. It's cut from the game. And unlike the Sole Survivor situation, you can't be a leader of one and in the other. You just can't. So, Courier sides with the NCR on this stage. The Boomers, the Khans, the Great Khans, the Brotherhood chapter, the Enclave remnants, and of course, Muggy. Because f*** you, I'm throwing Muggy in there.
Do you know how many coffee cups giant robot brains in jars use on a daily basis? Not fucking many!
We need to establish some rules, otherwise just throwing the armies at one another is boring and messy. To really assess and test the mind of an army or a force, you can't just be an all-out brawl. As in a sea of conflict, one wave can shift the tide. Or something. There needs to be tests for them to overcome, so they'll all need a goal, an objective to conquer. So I built this tower with my own two hands, and in this tower is the MacGuffin device, in which wipes out all other realities, leaving only one true fallout to rule them all. Each army must pass through treacherous mountains, cliff sides, engagements with raiders and super mutants, as they march towards their goal through the land. Crossing the gap. Stage 1. The Sole Survivor will gain 2 points here for entry as they have the Pridwin and a fleet of vertibirds to help enter the area. The Courier will also gain a point of entry as they have a fleet of vertibirds from the NCR to enter the area. However, not all of their army can get on the vertibirds, so they lose a point here. The Reclaimer does not get a point. With no mobility, they lose some of their army falling off the cliffs. The Lone Wanderer also does not gain a point for the same reason. It's 2 to the Sole Survivor, 1 to the Courier, Lone Wanderer and Reclaimer at 0. Next, as you are setting up camp for the night, your army is set upon by a bunch of raiders. Ambush. 2 points to the Sole Survivor, as the Pridwen cannot physically be attacked here, and both Brotherhood and Minutemen can successfully defend the site. 2 points to the Courier, as there's enough forces to rotate on sleep shifts, and Muggy does not sleep and cannot be damaged by the Raiders' pipe weapons, meaning around-the-clock protection. The last bit is a joke, but yes, they get all around-the-clock protection. There's someone furiously typing in the comments right now that including Muggy is just, it's just busted. I should not have included Muggy, but you know, I got to. It's canon, alright. 2 points to the Reclaimers, they just speed blitz the Raiders before they can even think. No need for an army there. 1 point to the Lone Wanderer, as their army is smaller, less protected, and is now struggling with supplies. So that's 4 to the Sole Survivor, 3 to the Courier, 2 to the Reclaimer, and 1 to the Lone Wanderer. I put WL as Lone Wanderer, and I keep reading it as Life Weaver from Overwatch. Dawn breaks. The armies march on. All forces are able to navigate the area with relative ease, although a point is awarded to the Sole Survivor, as the army is able to mount up on the Pridwen and maneuver faster. It's a super mutant force stationed where they want to set up camp. They have access to Fat Man launchers and rocket systems. The Sole Survivor army gains 0 points here. Their location is given away immediately by the Pridwen. Their fleet is victim to the ongoing explosives. A mix of the Brotherhood zealousy of the mutants, and you get catastrophic mistakes. Brotherhood and Minutemen forces alike are disorganized, and many people are caught in the crossfire. Sole Survivor is unable to capture the Fat Man reserves, minus a point. That leaves the Sole Survivor on 3. The Courier, equipped with veteran rangers, is able to ambush the mutants long before the mutants are even aware of their existence. While they have vertibirds, the NCR are known for sending forward scouts, and this is something the Courier is also known to do. Combine this with the Mojave Brotherhood chapter for backup, and the location is quickly taken over with minimum resistance. The Courier gains 2 points plus a bonus point for being able to capture the Fat Man reserves. This puts the Courier on 6. Wasn't deliberate. The Reclaimers, with no air support to give them away, are practically able to roll over the super mutants in this situation. They also gain 2 points, and a bonus point for the Fat Man reserves. Reclaimer is now on 5 points. The Lone Wanderer kind of struggles here, losing a portion of their men and unable to secure the reserves. Given the fact that Liberty Prime is on operation here, their location is again given away. So, on a point-based system, the Courier's army is more suitable for most engagements. Sorry, there's a lump in my throat. Jeez. And they kind of just edge out the win here. Sure, they don't have the airship, but they don't necessarily need it. The idea of the point system was to apply the armies to situations they'd encounter in the wasteland before arriving at the siege location to best assess how they'd handle said situations, what the outcome would be, and what we can learn from this. Unless I'm mistaken, the Fallout 3 Liberty Prime doesn't actually have a concrete way of being moved around easily, so he'd need to be in operation right from the jump, giving the Lone Wanderer a great aggression bonus and advantage, but much like with the Pridwen, a disadvantage to location, as Prime is very loud and very obvious. Something else worth mentioning is the NCR's win rate. This isn't a ragtag band of renegades or whatever the TV show did with them, and even then the Brotherhood initially struggled. This is a fully realized, fully armed and kitted out NCR, complete with the super mutants, complete with the subterfuge, complete with the heavy armored troops, NCR vet rangers, normal desert rangers, the whole kit. The same NCR that has had numerous victories against both the Enclave and the Brotherhood of Steel. Alone, they already possess almost every conceivable tactical advantage over the Brotherhood, but combine that with the fact that the Minutemen are intertwined in the forces, causing possible internal conflict in a land no party is exceptionally well versed in, the NCR have a lot more room to maneuver and move, often having very effective scouts. The Reclaimers don't do this. They kind of just charge around, set up outposts, and just mow through their forces, and the Lone Wanderer's forces at this point just don't have the capability to match that. Combine that with the fact that this army I'm talking about is forged specifically by the Courier, Everyone is willing to work together for the greater good, and you get a unity that no other party could possibly hope to achieve. Sure, the Minutemen and Brotherhood are working together under the sole survivor, but the Minutemen don't like the Brotherhood. And the Brotherhood most certainly don't like anybody that isn't in the Brotherhood, so they're never going to possibly work well together. The NCR, on its own, is strong enough. Strong enough to take on the other three? No, but they'd be tactical in their approach and patient enough to pick off forces if they engage with each other first. But together with the Mojave forces of legend and myth, the NCR is bolstered with an almost unstoppable force. It's also important to know that both Liberty Primes dog walk the ground forces, essentially. If both primes are up and running by the time the initial conflict begins, it's going to be a struggle for everyone else. But Prime is slow, and does have quite a large surface area for a barrage. We already addressed how Prime can be beaten by enough explosives, and the NCR most certainly have enough explosives. Subterfuge, sabotage are possible for them. They could sabotage Prime before he even gets up. And while the Mark II Prime would probably beat the Mark I Prime, the Mojave forces would be able to jump in on this opportunity even without sabotage. The Boomers, as an example, could swoop down and bombard the Primes while they exchanged blows. The Courier could even keep teleporting Robo-Scorpions on top of the Brotherhood. Let's not forget that the big MT is within the Courier's arsenal here. And the Pridwin? While it's essentially a mobile fortress, the airship itself doesn't really have much offensive capability, and it's a massive target. This alone would force the Maxim Brotherhood to probably be quite conservative with its forces and advances, meaning they might not be able to cover as much ground as they'd like to, or if they go out on the full offense, they have no defense. It's quite a problem. Either way, the Courier again has something to do with this. The Archimedes. It's been hard to sit here and assess the whole situation without putting the Courier's army on top, without giving them massive handicaps, because when fully realized, the Mojave forces quite literally have an answer to the other forces' bigger problems, from anti-power armor tech to anti-material rifles, all the way to a literal spear of God, not to mention whatever big MT tech the Courier decides to throw into the fray just for the fun of it, with Muggy doing backflips and no-scoping people left and right. It's kinda hard to say the Courier's forces wouldn't win. From numbers to technological weaponry, they just outscale all the other forces. The Minutemen fall apart without a general, and if the general's being torn between orders from Maxon and trying to command his own soldiers, there's already a massive power struggle within the force there. The Lone Wanderer's forces are struggling with supplies before they even get to the fight and are already on the back foot. The biggest threat either force have is Prime, and if the Primes don't kill each other first, the Courier has an answer for both. Even if the Boomers get shot down before they can drop the payload, the Archimedes would be more than enough to deal with both Primes. The Pridwin can be assaulted by other means at the end of the day. The Reclaimers would be very problematic though. Being more Enclave aligned, they'd be brash, rush into any situation head first, and while this certainly would cause chaos, and they would certainly carve a path through any force, they would eventually be outnumbered and whittled down to nothing. Every single force here has dealt with super mutants to some degree, and while the Reclaimers I think are definitely above super mutants, they are still mutants that can be dealt with. Putting mutants and Enclave in the same sentence is insanity, but that is 76. So my conclusion is this. On a one-on-one, there isn't an army that can go toe-to-toe with a united Mojave, and even then, if all three of them, with the Lone Wanderer, Reclaimer and Sole Survivor teamed up to take out Mojave force first, the Mojave force would go down swinging, and they would make the others look like clowns while they did it. There isn't a situation, aside from a literal 3v1, where the Courier's forces don't rise to the top. Lone Wanderer could call in his little alien ship, but if we have our brains turned on, you'd remember that I said it canonically doesn't work anymore, so all he'd hear is... At the end of the conflict, the one standing on piles of bodies, blood and bone, is the Courier. It would not be an easy fight, but they'd come out on top. Now there's going to be people typing that this is another Fallout New Vegas glaze and how they hate the Fallout New Vegas community, and to that I say,